Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Alexandra Buenrostro. I'm the wellness coordinator over at Moore Park High School. We have Miss Julianna Lorenzen that's going to be presenting on how to improve our kids' mental health through healthy screen habits. So I'm going to go ahead and direct it over to her.
Hey, so we're doing this in person. We've got some awesome on-site parents who welcome. Thanks for being here in person. And then we've got our awesome digitally here parents. There's great things that came out of the pandemic, and people can get here in multiple different ways. So we're glad you're here, whether you're here or here. We want to just make the most of the time that we've got. And so we're going to jump right in. And so we're going to jump right into this horrible, awful statistic that, we're here talking about how we can improve our kids' mental health because the pandemic has wreaked havoc on us all, but particularly our youth that are still learning how to navigate life and learning who they are. And so between May of 2020, these are statistics from the CDC, and between May of 2020 from February to March of 2021, emergency room visits for suspected suicide attempts were over 50% higher amongst girls, which is a devastating statistic. I mean, to have that big of a jump is kind of hard to wrap your head around. On the plus side, the boys, the increase was just under 4%. And why there's such a disparity in those statistics, I'm not sure, because there could be lots of things that go into it. And so we don't know the causation, the correlation, all that. All we know is it's gone up. Suicide attempts are going up, mental health is going down. And so we just want to make sure we're figuring out why. This past week, we'll go ahead to the next slide. Last month, there was an article in The Atlantic where someone was looking at the question of, what the rising teenage sadness can be attributed to. And so Lance Steinberg, a psychologist at Temple University, said rising teenage sadness isn't a new trend, but rather an acceleration and broadening of a trend that clearly started before the pandemic. We shouldn't ignore the pandemic either, but the fact that COVID seems to have made teen mental health worse offers clues about what's really driving the rise in sadness. So in the next slide, you can see that this rise in sadness, as he stated, didn't start with the pandemic. That just exacerbated it. It started in about 2007 and started going up much more sharply in 2012. And if you can think back to then, those years are of significance in our, in our world of healthy screen habits, because 2007 is when the first iPhone came out. And 2012 is when saturation point in our society was about 50% of Americans had a smartphone. So it's interesting. Once again, causation, correlation, you can make statistics say whatever you want, but when you look at that curve, it's undeniable that there has to be some sort of correlation with the impact that having a smartphone and the things that are accessed on that by our teens is having an impact on their mental health. So that's why we're looking at our screen habits in terms of knowing how we can make a difference in our kids' mental health. And tonight we're coming at it looking at it from a couple of different ways, but particularly a brain science way. Because my background is in the medical field, and so that's my friend is a social worker, so she looks at it from her lens, and another one of our board members is an educator, and so she looks at it through her lens. Mine is more of the health and how the body works, and so we're going to look at it through that way. These are the latest statistics for screen usage in tweens and teens in America. This is from Common Sense Media. They do a census each year. So these are the statistics from 2021 that shows that in both demographics, the 8 to 12-year-olds, screen usage, and this is not accounting for school-based screen uses. So this isn't their time spent at school. This isn't their time spent, working on their Chromebook. This is outside of school activities, screen usage, 5 hours and 33 minutes for tweens, 8 hours and 39 minutes for teens. It's just mind-boggling, right? Because you think if they're spending that much time on their devices, and if you go to Common Sense Media, there's a tab that says research, and you can get the whole report, and you can look at, and it breaks it all down, demographics and what type of usage this comprises. So there's a lot of additional information, but this is just a snapshot to see that it has been going up. So as our mental health is going down, our screen time is going up. So that correlation there. One of the things that, if that many hours are being used for screen use in their day, you figure, they've got time at school, they've got time with personal care needs, they've got time with, certain things that are immovable. Where is that time coming from? And what is being sacrificed? What are they not doing because of that? And this is something we developed with Healthy Screen Habits to look at what's going on with our kids. And as you look at this, anytime we're in a difficult situation, anytime we're in a feeling where we feel vulnerable, we look for a way to feel better. We look for something to be soothing. And this cycle of vulnerability demonstrates how technology can, when we, even as adults, and especially our kids, are looking for a way to be able to self-regulate and self-soothe, we'll turn to the screen. It's the quickest, easiest thing, right? Instead of like having to put on your shoes and go for a walk, you're more likely going to pick it up and play a game or scroll or whatever your typical go-to is. We have that thing that we use to and so the technology is there, but it doesn't have the ability to give us those connections. It doesn't have the ability to really feed our souls and give us what we're looking for. So that's, this cycle of vulnerability is just, it's not doing what we need it to do. And so hopefully by the time you leave here tonight, you'll know how to help your children and even how to know yourself, how to break out of that and find other things that will help you to be able to help that mental health go up rather than continuing to go down. So an important thing to remember is, and it's easy to forget, our kids' brains are under construction. When they do something stupid and we're like, what were you thinking? It's because they weren't thinking. That particular part of their brain that would make it so that they were thinking through, and the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that does the reasoning and does the okay, so this is the consequence if I do that, so therefore I should do this. That part of their brain is under construction and will not be completed until mid-20s. So my awesome son who's here helping me run the tech, he's 19, he's still under construction. Luckily, his brain has learned how to run the technology, and I'm very grateful for that. So, so that's something that it's really important that we keep that in mind, that when we are going to learn about the things we're learning today and then try to put them into action, if we just, our kids will tell us that they don't need our help. They will tell us that they are perfectly fine making good choices with everything in their life, especially technology. Don't believe them and help them understand that you love them and you love them a lot, but there's a lot that their brains are still trying to work out. So that's something that is good for them to know and good for us to know. I guess I should tell you, I've got a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 19-year-old. So I've got a college, high school, middle school, and elementary school. I got one at every level. So you name it, we've probably seen it or heard it or done it. But one of the things that they'll often say is, why do you have to, here's just an example, why do you have to check my message? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you doing that? And I connect it with, well, when you're learning to drive a car, I have to be in the front seat to help you, to mentor you and help you recognize possible dangers that you might not know on your own to look for. And so anyway, so as their brains are developing and they're gaining those skills, That's our job as parents, is to be there in that front seat with them and help prepare them so that when they do go off to college, they can be able to have successful ways to self-soothe and self-regulate. So that cycle of vulnerability can be a cycle of something so much better than vulnerability. So this is where we get into the part that I love, which is the nerdy, fun brain chemistry stuff. So we have like several main happiness chemicals in our body. Some are hormones, some are neurotransmitters. For the sake of simplicity, we're just going to call them happiness chemicals or neurochemicals in our body. And so these are the main things that contribute to our happiness, the things that contribute to our mental health. And so we're going to go through each one and see kind of how they play into it. So the first one we're going to talk about is, on the next slide, dopamine. That's one that is a hot topic these days, and we're going to talk more about it as we go on. But dopamine is something that for a long time people thought it was the pleasure thing, that when it released, you felt pleasure. But as research has gone on, it's almost more of the anticipatory, as you're anticipating something that you're going to enjoy, that's when the dopamine gets released. If you imagine if I gave you a gift to open and you were going to open the present, if you think back to the last time you opened a present, that feeling as you start to open up the paper and that building excitement, that you almost feel by the time it comes to a climax and you open up the present, that dopamine's already coursing through your body, because it's that craving, that anticipating, that pleasure that you feel as you are looking forward to that. So a lot of times it's a huge part of the reward system, pleasure. It's a huge part of motivation, because when we feel that, we want to feel that again. And so that motivates us to do something. So it plays into all sorts of things, like motivation to do all sorts of things. If you can figure out how to hack the dopamine system to get people to do what they need to do to be successful in school, then that would be great, right? Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. Now, people have figured out how to use dopamine to get us to do what they want us to do. And this just kind of shows the cycle of how it goes. And it's even stronger. I don't know if you can see this, see where it says the blue, the certainty of the reward. See how the dose of dopamine is lower in that case? If you know what's coming, it's less of a dopamine hit. That uncertainty, that uncertain reward influences how much of a experience you have with the dopamine. So we'll go to the next one. Your phone in your pocket is in actuality the world's smallest slot machine. So if you've ever done a slot machine or played Candy Crush, or those things work on and manipulate that dopamine system, where it makes us want to go back to it because we want to get that next hit of dopamine. So we're going to go to the next. And we were talking about, if we could harness the power of dopamine, it could get us to do anything, right? Well, that's what Sean Parker and Mike Zuckerberg, and after that, everyone else who has developed any app that we go to when we're feeling down, they are capitalizing on this. Sean Parker was the founding president of Facebook when they first started, and he said, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? That question led to the creation of features such as the like button that would give users a little dopamine hit, exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. So it's no wonder that it's so hard for us to do something other than this, when this is so easy and we get that reward in our pleasure and our reward system in our brain. Next, Seth. Now, so you've got that dopamine stuff going on, right? Now you have these other neurochemicals in your brain that are also important parts of our mental health. So this one here with serotonin, if you've ever taken depression medication, it is called an SRRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, because those medications are designed to keep your serotonin levels high, because serotonin is a mood stabilizer. It contributes to our well-being and to our happiness. So this one's harder for them to hack, right? So we have to intentionally hack this ourselves. And the way that we do that is by the foods that we eat. Our good diet contributes to our levels of serotonin. So we want to make sure that we keep our serotonin levels high. And then the next one is going to be oxytocin. This is something that is released in our body when there's touch, when there's connection. And it creates a bonding, it creates love, it creates those feelings that we need in order to fight the mental health struggles that we have. I mean, so often the loneliness that you feel, with depression and anxiety, these are the things that are very difficult to feel, and difficult to, even if someone loves you, you may not necessarily feel it, because we need more oxytocin in our lives. And the fourth happy neurochemical that we're going to talk about is endorphins, that, you know, that oftentimes they contribute to pain relief, that runner's high that you get, the relaxation. That is another thing that helps you feel better naturally. And that's something that, you know, your body is supposed to have, that to help give you that positive mental state. So next up. So the question then is, what happens to the brain when chemicals needs to thrive are off balance? And that's what's happening with our kids. That is, if you show the next, that's what is, you know, the top issues facing kids today can be explained by an imbalance of those neurochemicals in our body. And so with, you know, the teen suicide, the mental health, the brain development. Interestingly, there's a study that came out in 2019 by the Journal of American Medical Association. And they did research on children that were 3 years old and younger that had seen, there was like a cutoff where if you had this much screen time and above, you were in one group, and this much screen time and below, you were in a different group. And they did MRIs of their brains to see what sort of differences they could note. Well, interestingly, they noted a decrease in white matter in the brains of those kids who had seen more than 3 hours of TV per day, or screens of some sort. So in these 3-year-olds that not for very long had a difference in the firing of their brain, the brain development, enough to where it was identifiable on MRI that white matter, which is what connects different parts of the brain, that is the part that, when they say that neurons that wire together, or that fire together, wire together, it, because of the screen time, the impact that it had was it literally changed the way that their brain was developing. So these are the top issues that are facing our kids today, that if we can balance out those neurochemical levels in their bodies, and in ours too, because I don't know about you, but I'm guilty of this myself too. I have to every day make a conscious effort to fight that potential manipulation that they say of us. And so, so what we're going to do now, go ahead and, so this is what's causing that. And so if we can know that, then the next question is, you know, so what are we going to do about it? Before we go into what we're going to do about it, age matters. That when this is based on research by Dr. Jean Twenge from San Diego State University. She had a groundbreaking research. She was the one that first identified that 2012 as the date that the things started to change. And so in her research, she also found that among kids who spend 10 hours a week on social media sites. So if you break that down, you know, how many hours is that per day? Not like less than 2 per day, right? Because if we've got 7 days, so if kids are spending 8 hours per day on average on social media or videos or whatever, this is pretty much going to be every kid, right? Because every kid is going to be more than 10 hours a week. Hopefully not our kids, but amongst kids who spent 8 hours on social media sites, 8th graders were 56% more likely to be unhappy compared to 12th graders. So when it comes to decisions about what's appropriate, and we as an organization truly believe that every family is going to be different, and it's not up to us to say when you should do what, but we do say delay social media as much as you can, as late as you can. And this shows you that your child will be only 20% likely to be unhappy, or they can be 56%, but so you can choose when you want your child to be how unhappy. But the more you delay, the statistics show that your child has a higher chance of being less unhappy. So it's still not, great, but one of the why this is part of it, I think, kind of is we see in the next slide also, because during that age, especially middle school years and then early high school years, these kids, their child development, their stage of development is they are learning who they are. If you look at Erik Erikson's child development stage, that's where they're developing their identity, or confusion is the name of the theory of child development at that time. Their job, that their brain is trying to figure out who they are. And so typically when you and I were growing up, we were figuring out who we were. But when we left school, we'd go home and we would have our own refuge at home to figure that out in. Now, if they're spending 8 hours per day in connection with other people, they don't have that same solitude. They don't have those same where they figure out for themselves who they are. And let me tell you, those social media sites will tell them who they are. It will, the Wall Street Journal did the algorithms of these different social media platforms are something that our kids, most of them probably have no idea about. And I just learned something new just as I was preparing for this. Wall Street Journal just did an article, and they created 100 different TikTok accounts that were bot accounts. And what they did is they assigned to each of those accounts 2 words that were the identifiers for that. So like one was interested in forestry, and one was interested in, they would like puppies, and so the one that was interested in the 2 keywords, and the reason why the words or the interests were important is what they would do is it would hover over videos about that particular subject for just a millisecond longer. Hardly a perceptible length of time longer. But if you're on TikTok, the algorithm is so dialed in that this account, they were hovering over, and not for much longer. Like they would watch a video. There was maybe they would stop and watch a video about depression, or stop and watch a video about sadness, and then it would go on. Within 36 minutes, which was 224 videos, but only in 36 minutes, it had already dialed in what they thought that person wanted to see, what that person was interested in. And after that 36-minute point, the people who were managing the system, they found that 93% of everything shown to that account after that was all about depression and sadness. So you figure, you take a kid who's trying to figure out who they are. If they are feeling a little bit sad, if they are feeling anxious, if they are, any vulnerability, and this is TikTok specifically. The other ones have their own algorithms that apparently aren't quite as good. They may not get you in 36 minutes, but within 36 minutes, 94% of everything it showed them after that was not the puppies. It was not anything happy. It was all about depression and sadness. So when we've got our kids that's what is being fed to them as they're trying to figure out what their identity is, it's setting them up for a really rough go, right? So these are the things that if we can help them understand that what they're seeing is being fed to them to grab their attention, that it is a free platform because the platform gets paid when they pay attention to the videos. And so anything that is going to be shown to them that they think that they'll look at longer, that's going to be something that's going to be played for them for longer. So if you want somebody else to tell you who you are, just hop on social media, because they will do that. And so that just like reinforces so much more why we need to figure out what are the interventions? What can we do? How can we have healthier screen habits? How can we have greater levels of mental health? How can we fight that curve? So I'll pass it on. So technology is not going to go away. So we've got to figure out how to navigate within this world that we are living in. So first thing to do is make sure that we ourselves know this and that we teach our kids this, the importance of the shed method. That we've got to, anytime wilderness training, right? So survival, you got to build shelter. And these 4 things are the foundational things. Maslow is another child development expert, and he always talks about how if we don't meet our physical needs first, we can't meet the higher needs that we have. So first off, we've got to make sure that we are sleeping. We got to make sure our kids are sleeping. If they're spending 8+ hours online, those hours have got to be coming from somewhere. And a dear friend of mine who is a social worker in a high school in our area, she will be the first one to tell you these kids are not sleeping. And their parents think that they are, but they take the phones with them into their bedroom. And, there's always, even if they're not up on it, there's the quality of the sleep is decreased because you're always waiting, the ding comes, or like, is somebody, that anticipation, is somebody going to call? Is somebody going to message? Is there going to be somebody going to snap me? These things, it impacts the quality of their sleep. And then also whether we know it or not, if the phone is in the room, they're going to get fewer minutes, probably fewer hours of sleep. So number one thing, make sure we're doing everything we can to get sleep. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on because it's one of those drums we just got to keep banging. Hydration, make sure that my background is an athletic trainer, so I do sports medicine. And I always tell my athletes, research shows you only have to be 2% dehydrated before your performance decreases. In fact, your performance is already decreasing before you feel thirsty. So if we encourage them to always be drinking water, that's what our body needs, not energy drinks, not soda. Drink the water, your body needs it. And then exercise. Those endorphins, if we want to balance out those happy chemicals in our body, balance out the dopamine that's way up here, we've got to get the other happy chemicals up there. And so exercise is one way that we can get those happy neurochemicals going on. Seth, I hope you don't mind. So my son ran cross country during high school, and I feel like that was a great way for his mental health, right? Because every day there was physical activity there. My daughter plays soccer, whatever. Every kid is going to be different, but if you can find something that is physically active, individual or group or anything, just get moving. And then diet, when we talked about serotonin, the things that produce more serotonin in our diet are high fiber and hold on, I got this. I want to make sure that I give you the correct information. 75% of serotonin is produced in the gastric tract system, and you know what, I put it somewhere else in my notes, sorry. But basically, any foods, fruits, vegetables, other things that are high fiber, basically 30 grams of fiber per day, and moderation when it comes to meat and fats, and you're good when it comes to serotonin. So, so that's our shed. Those are the meeting your physical needs, and also building up those other happy chemicals, your neurotransmitters, your hormones that you need in order to, hopefully, as you're bringing down the dopamine levels, you can bring those up. All right, Seth, what's next? So it's really easy, like we said before, to get sucked into that cycle of vulnerability. Instead of that, we've got to find ways to do other things. That when you're feeling lonely, when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're feeling down, when your children are feeling these things, that we help them to know how to get centered. And so we came up with this acronym to be able to make it a little bit easier, that, you know, you've got to find a way to connect with people. You know, you've got to be aware of your emotions. You can't change it if you don't accept it. You've got to name what you're feeling. Dan Siegel's a great child psychologist, and he's talking about how you can't just ignore how you're feeling. You've got to name what that emotion is and feel it and work through it. And that is how you can come out the other side in a better state of mind and better mental health. Being outside, those endorphins, that, you know, it feeds your soul. The touch, that's where you get the oxytocin release. Enthusiasms, finding something that you want to do, something that you're passionate about, that you look forward to doing. And then when you do that, you get dopamine release, but you get it at a normal, you know, the normal ramping up, release, and then coming down. It's different than when we're scrolling on a device and, or, you know, going from one YouTube video to another, where with that, you're going up, it's climaxing, and before it comes down, it's going up again and going up again and going up again. You never get that normal dopamine release. And so when we participate in things that we're enthusiastic about, things that we enjoy doing, different hobbies, that's where you can have that very positive experience with dopamine. Relationships, once again, that oxytocin, the interaction, the feeling connection, exercising, and then finding ways to do good. But this has to be something that you're intentionally doing, that you have to make a choice of, okay, instead of just going the easy route and picking up my phone, what else can I be doing? And it takes some effort, and it takes a lot of reminding as parents, you know, letting our kids know, helping them remember that these other things that take a little bit more effort, help them understand why it's important to do. We've got to do those things that are going to balance out those neurochemicals. Okay, next up, we've got a couple handouts here that if you're, as you're trying to help your kids learn how to do this, this is a free download on our website at healthyscreenhabits.org. The cycle of vulnerability, the digital things that you go to, the things that are the easy thing, they're not going to fill up your heart, but these other things are. And so this is just a way that you can sit down with your kid, or just, it's easy enough. You can just give it to them and they can figure it out if they're that independent kid that doesn't want the mentoring through it. But we wanted to make sure that one side has the suggestions, and then when you flip it over on the other side, there's blank spots for them to make their own plan. So then that way, we're not just telling them what to do, we're giving them the why, giving them the information about why it's important to do it, and then helping them know how to do it. So that's the hope and the idea behind that. The next thing that we have as a free download on our website is our family technology plan. Technology, as we said, is not going away. And so it takes us as a family to sit down and try to figure out what role technology is going to play in our family. So on our website, it's a 2-page document, front and back. So we want to make it really simple. There's whole courses you can do out there, but ain't nobody got time for that. This gets you, like, you can sit down as a family, discuss the 7 steps, come up with what your plan is, how to identify what sort of dangers might affect your family, determine what devices in your house connect to the internet and how you're going to filter them, and then create what areas of your house are going to be tech free, and then what times are going to be tech free. And then there's another couple of things on the back. Last of all being, how are we going to use technology for good in our lives? As a parent, the most important thing we can do is to model the behavior we want them to have and to try to always connect with our kids. I realize how hard this is, and myself as a parent, so much of what I do in managing our family lives is on my phone. And I found that I was on my phone so much more. I was doing productive things. It was all useful things for their benefit, but it was taking me away from them and making me unavailable because there was this device between me and them. And so still it's a daily struggle. But I came up with an idea that when I was around, I had a basket that I would put in my downstairs. And so I would try to remember, instead of putting it in my back pocket that was easily available to take out at any moment, I would put it in that thing. Whatever works for you. But the idea is to put your phone out of sight when you're with your kids, so you're more likely to really connect and they feel your presence. They feel you see them and that you're there for them. And that builds that relationship. And it also builds that connection that is going to make all the difference as you go through and navigate technology together. Then it's not a us versus them. Then it can be more of a together, we're doing this together, we're figuring this out. And then the next thing too, that one of my favorite researchers, her name is Dr. Christy Kane, and she is so cute. She's like, everybody hug your kids every day for 8 seconds, 8 times for 8 seconds. And my kids really don't like it. And it's never 8 times for 8 seconds. But I think if we have the goal of 8 times for 8 seconds, maybe we'll get like 2 times for 2 seconds, which anything is better than nothing at all, because it creates that release of oxytocin. It creates on a chemical level what we're going for, but it can help to create that relationship also and let them know that we're there for them and that we love them. So now this is more like big picture kind of a thing, but more of the actual nitty gritty of, okay, so then how do we really do this? Like I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Protect Young Eyes is one of my favorite resources out there. They have a website that has pretty much any device you may possibly have, or any app or anything you may have any interaction with, or your kids have any interaction with. They have a how-to on how to set whatever parental controls, whatever limits you want to set. So protectyoungeyes.com is gold. And I love the visual that they've created. In fact, we didn't bother creating one because this does it so well. That the foundation of protection, our layers of protection in our family. Number one is that relationship. Having that relationship with your kids, that digital trust that, that they know that you love them and they know that you have their best interests in heart. And then you hopefully have a team approach to things. And then the next layer is all the Wi-Fi coming into your house. If you can filter it at the Wi-Fi level, then any device that is signing on to the internet through your home Wi-Fi, you can filter, you can limit. My favorite way to do this is with a device called the Griffin router. And I can control all sorts of things. During COVID education, I had a unnamed child who loved to get on YouTube during school. And I could make it so that he was not able to access. Oh, I just gave away, which now it's at least 1 out of 3 of my sons. Anyway, so that is a great way to protect at the home level. Any Wi-Fi in your home, you can filter it through Griffin or some other router that way. And then the device, there's parental controls that cover the whole device. With Apple devices, it's screen time. With Android devices, it's digital well-being. And Google devices have Google Family Link. You can also use Google Family Link on any Android device too. So you can divide the device level and then the location. That's part of on your family technology plan. You pick which locations in your family you will have technology, you will have devices. In our family, it's downstairs. In fact, there's even in the family room, the school Chromebooks don't go in there. They're for working, they stay in. Anyway, so for every family, it's going to be different. A friend of mine, there's no devices upstairs at all, because then that way you don't have them in the bedrooms. But at a minimum, I urge you, no matter what your family policy is, whatever it's been in the past, if you will deal with the discomfort that will come from changing the family policy to having no phones, no computers in bedrooms, that one act alone, that one rule change, that one policy difference will make such a difference in your life, in your children's lives, because that will mean that their room can be a sanctuary. No bullies allowed. No checking to see what your grades are. No anybody telling you who you are. That could be a place where you can be alone with your thoughts and you can decide who you are and you can have some peace. And then also on the other end of the spectrum that, hopefully we don't have to worry about this, but it's a real thing. There's also not going to be any predators that take advantage of the fact that the child is in a place that is away from any supervising people. So location, if you do nothing else from talking to us tonight, from being here tonight, please keep the devices out of the bedrooms. And as a plus, if you do that, your kids will sleep more and they will sleep better. So if that's your one takeaway from all of this, keep the phones out of the bedrooms, keep the computers out of the bedrooms, keep any screens out of the bedrooms. And then the last one is limits on the apps. That the last layer of protection is on the device. You can decide which apps are allowed, and you can decide how much time you want them to have on there. Now remember TikTok, how it took only 36 minutes for them to totally shift to where they were giving 94% of the content was sadness and depression. This layer of protection oftentimes is a bit of a joke, because TikTok's parental controls, when you try to set how many minutes your kid can be on TikTok, guess what the lowest number of minutes is that they allow you to put? You would think that you could do like 10 minutes, right? Or 20 minutes. The lowest that TikTok, their particular parental controls is 40 minutes. So, these apps, they try to make it sound like they're doing a good thing, but their parental controls are not that great. Screen time and digital well-being and Google Family Link, you can limit how much access they have to certain apps. There's workarounds, you got to always kind of be on it, but it's worth the effort. And those work better than the in-person apps, but basically throw whatever you can at it. If you need help figuring out how to set something up, give us a call. I put my card over here. We're passionate about helping families have healthier screen habits. And this is the foundation of how to do it, is setting those limits, because remember, those developing brains, they don't have the ability to self-regulate. They think they do. They want us to think they do, but they don't. The chemistry is too strong right now when that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex that does the reasoning, that does the self-control, that's not strong enough yet to counteract that reward system. So we've got to be their prefrontal cortex as we help them develop it, so this is just the last couple of things, and we'll answer questions if anybody has any. The last couple of things are just some habits that And I put them out of order because I want you to see this one and remember this one. As we try to teach our kids habits for them to have. This one right here, turn in your phone for bedtime each night. Like I said, every family is going to be a little bit different, but in addition to having no phones in the bedroom, also, when we go to bed, if the phone is somewhere where it's highly accessible, our sweet, honest, wonderful, lovely children might come and get it. And so we recommend having a place either in the parent's bedroom or the parent's bathroom, somewhere where it's a little bit less accessible to a wandering child at night, wandering teenager at night. And once again, this isn't because we don't trust them or we don't think that they would make good decisions, but we're just helping them train their prefrontal cortex while it's still under construction. And helping them, hopefully they'll realize that they sleep better if it's not right on their nightstand. If they say they need it for their alarm clock, they're $5 at Target. So it is a very important habit for developing a healthy relationship with technology to not have your phone right next to you, particularly when you're a teenager or younger. Okay, next habit is favorite one, keep the devices out of the bedroom for all the reasons we've already said. And then now we get back to, I think it's going to go to number 1. And this is something that as you're helping your kids learn how to have a healthy relationship with technology, if you can help them learn this habit, that when you pick up your phone, it's not that thing that helps you feel better, right? We're not going to get in that cycle of vulnerability. If when we pick it up, we ask ourselves, what is our purpose? And we're using it as a tool. We're using it for what it was originally created for, to be a device that makes life easier for us rather than something that makes life harder. So ask yourself when you pick up that phone, what is my purpose in using the phone right now? And the second question is, how long should it take? I will admit to you freely that oftentimes I have to set a timer. When I ask myself that question, what's my purpose? How long will it take? I'll say, hey, Siri, set a timer for 5 minutes, because I need that backup. And if I as an adult do, then our kids do too. And so if we can teach them that technique, it's a way that they can learn that to start with. And then habit number 2, remember the grandma rule. If you wouldn't send it to grandma, if you wouldn't want grandma to see it, you shouldn't be sending it to anyone. If you wouldn't feel comfortable looking at it when grandma's with you, you shouldn't be looking at it. So the grandma rule can cover a whole variety of things, everything from how we treat other people online to what we're looking at online. Grandma can be a good helper there. And then back around to habit number 3, shut your phone up when you're with someone or doing something important. I would even go as far as saying, turn off notifications altogether, because then that way you look at it when you need it, not when Snapchat tells you somebody snapped you, or not when Apple News tells you that there's something you should look at. The more notifications you can turn off, the better, and the more it will be the tool to help you rather than the thing that sucks you in. And then also on the other side of things, inside of the distracting you version side of things, from the interpersonal side of things, there's research that shows that if you have your phone out on the table and you're talking to somebody, they are less likely, the person you're talking to is less likely to talk to you about things of greater importance and something more deep. It's a more superficial interaction. And I don't know how they structured the experiment to figure that out, but that was what they found, was that because the person is they're less likely to open up, because at any moment you may decide something's more important because that phone is sitting right there. So that's the important thing, is helping us be the example of that, and then helping our kids understand why that's important. So as we're doing that, we're building those interpersonal relationships that, remember, are going to give us the oxytocin, which are going to balance out those happy neurochemicals and hopefully fight against that manipulation that is so strong and so real, so that we can have greater, more positive mental health for ourselves and for our children. And that is our hope, and that is our goal. And that's why we do what we do as Healthy Screen Habits. So that way we can give you the education, we give you the research, give you all the information, and you can decide what's best for you and your family, and that you can develop the type of screen habits that you want in your life. And so that is our presentation for you tonight. If you want more on a regular basis, you can, we've got a podcast that we just finished up season 4. If you've ever met Hillary Wilkinson, her kids went through the schools here in Moore Park. She's amazing. She's our producer and host of that. And you can, on our website, there's a podcast tab, and you can go back and see who she's interviewed, pretty much anything you might wonder about or have ideas about, or think, what should I do in this situation? She's found an expert who has had incredible information. Like even Temple Grandin came and talked about how neurodiverse brains, what we can do to help support them. Amazing resources there. It'll start back up with a new season in September, but for now we're finishing up. I think there's 1 or 2 more episodes before this season ends. So, and then also if you want to follow us on, ironically, social media, but we do, it's a limited interaction we have with that. We try to provide resources and information there. And then our website, there's tons of free downloads, hopefully resources that can be of assistance as you try to develop healthier screen habits for you and your family. So any questions